Alright, welcome back. Now we're going to look at creating the buttons for our websites. The first thing we're going to start out with is the actual design. We'll start with our rectangle tool down here in the bottom left. And we're going to just make a basic rectangle. What you probably want to do is consider the exact length of your navigation bar, which right now is 940. And we'll go and we'll grab our calculator. And we're going to divide that 940 out by however many links that we're actually going to want. So for simplicity, we'll just say 940 divided by 5, and we'll make 5 links, 5 buttons at 188 pixels wide a piece. So we're going to grab this rectangle tool, click one time, and we're going to make each one 188 pixels wide, and the entire height of the navigation bar is 100 pixels. And that navigation bar must be 50 pixels, so we'll just change that. And there's our first button here. We'll slide it into place. And now we're ready to actually begin designing the button. There's a couple of different things that you can do. You could just simply add some layer effects to the button by double clicking on the layer, adding a bevel and emboss, or a texture, or a stroke, and doing some simple things like that. Inner shadow, outer shadow, and so on, outer glow. Do be mindful that as you add things that go on the outside, like a stroke, it is going to increase the width and height of your button, so be watching for those. You could just leave it just like this, but I also want to show you how to actually create a gradient. So if you'll select your rectangle tool one more time, it's going to open up your option bar for your rectangle. You can change the fill color, add a stroke directly from the options bar, or if you look under the fill button, you will actually see the gradient fill. Check that, and I'm going to walk you through creating a gradient. What a gradient is when you have two or more colors that are combined together in different shades and lengths. So what you'll have here is it's going to go ahead and create a basic gradient for you in this first slot, made up of your foreground and background color. So if you just wanted the foreground background, you could click that, or you could go further into making your own. These are all templates and presets that you have to choose from. If you like those, or like I said, you can do your foreground and background. I'm going to show you real quick how to change the basic layout of this gradient. And what you want to do is click one time right here on this bar, and it'll bring up an editor. Here you'll see the two colors, the yellow, the white and the blue that we have on the gradient. Clicking on these will bring up options to change the colors. So we could change that to red, change this one to purple, or whatever it is that you want to do there. You could also slide these back and forth and make them longer and shorter. As you can see, the red is shrinking and the pink is becoming more predominant. You can also add third, fourth, fifth, and so on colors. So if I wanted to click right here below the bar, I can make a whole new color swatch and add a whole third different color there in the center. And also I can drag that back and forth. Okay. There's also options for changing what kind of gradient you have, such as this option right here in this box. We'll bring up right now we're using a linear gradient, which is lines, obviously. We also have radial gradients, which are circular. We can change the angle of that to make it look not so pronounced, such as something like that. Angular, reflected, diamond, so on, whatever it is that you're wanting to do here. Just play around with those settings and get it set up the way that you like to. I tell you, I'll just leave it like this. So that's gradients right here in the fill box on the options bar. You can get there, and by clicking on this bar you can edit that gradient. Now we're ready to put our text on our button. So we'll get our type tool and we'll type, say, home. Since this will be our first button, it'll probably be our home button. And we are going to want to spruce this up a little bit as well. So we'll double click on this layer, bring up our layer styles, and add a couple options here for it to kind of make it stand out. You could also add another gradient to this text if you'd like to. I'm just going to keep it simple and add a couple of these options to make it stand out a little bit. Maybe a drop shadow, and we'll call it a day on that. Put it into place here. Make sure it's centered and looking good. And essentially that is all you need for your button. Now you don't want to have to redo that button from scratch. So what you're going to want to do is select the rectangle behind it and the text in front holding the shift key. Right click and duplicate the layers. Hit OK, and essentially you have duplicated that button. We'll do that a couple more times. And hopefully, if our math was correct, this will come out exactly right to fit our navigation bar. Okay, now all you'll have to do is go in and edit the text and rename it to the different names for the pages that you're going to want. Now you're not going to name these page 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to name these based on the content that's going to be on each page. Just for the sake of the tutorial, I am going to name them 2, 3, 4, 5. Next we'll take a look at how to create your slice these up and actually make them work on your web page, and how to save our documents for the web.